Okay, so let's get started. Welcome everyone back to Virtual AppSec Israel 2020. You are currently in track A and we are now carrying on. Just before we get started, I want to say thank you to our gold sponsors, Amdocs and Checkmarks. For more information about them and about the conference itself, please see the conference website, appsecil.org. We are really excited to welcome Kefer to speak today. Daniel has been working in the application security field for 13 years and currently works as head of IT security at Germany's largest mail provider. Daniel's been working with the core OWASP SAMM project team for more than 5 years and almost at the same time as project leader of the Security Wrapped project. Following his great workshop yesterday on the OWASP SAMM project, today he will talk about how you can define and execute a software security strategy tailored to your risk profile. So over to you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks to Josh for the presentation. I don't have anything to add, maybe just from the organization point of view. If you have attended the workshop yesterday, there will probably not be too much news for you, as yesterday we went through the SAMM framework, including also some hands-on exercises. But if you're interested to learn more, exciting to share all the information you like, you're welcome to ask the questions anytime, or I'll be also taking questions after the talk, of course. So yeah, what are we trying to solve? And I tried to summarize the situation with these three pictures, and really wondering if you'll be thinking the same things which I thought of when looking for the pictures. What I'm trying to say with the left one, with the oil pump, is not that the data is the oil or anything like that. I'm trying to say that everything has essentially become a software. So like if you have a situation like 20 years ago, where you would have the traditional applications, by then you would not think that in some years your cars will be updated over the air full of software, that your watch will be based on software and so on. So basically software is everything, and this also means, as they say, every software contains vulnerabilities. Always, they say that you can always shorten any code by one line, and always in every single piece of software you will find a vulnerability. So essentially you might end up with a software which is just one line of code and still has one vulnerability, and that's an issue for us as a security professionals, because the attack service is getting really big for us. So when you look at the middle picture, there I wanted to kind of reflect the view of the attackers on this situation. So an attacker which is after you typically has a goal, and these people are not really interested in how secure your software is on average. Everything they are after is the weakest single point where it makes financially for them the most sense to get to your data, to your services, or whatever they are after. This also means that if you have secured only 80% or 90% of your infrastructure or your landscape, you just basically are throwing the money out of the window because your program is not effective. And as you see on the right picture, and that's actually might be a good news, you actually nowadays you have a lot of tools to use as a security consultant or security professional trying to help your organization. The bad part is that not everyone knows really how to use the tools, and does not even know all the tools and understand which tool is fit for which purpose. So we became really good in communicating, for instance, penetration testing as a measure. So we enabled the mindset, telling, okay, we develop something, then we test it, and then it's fine, and then we go to production. And the current world does not really work like that, and I will get to the reasons why. I would say that as a security professional trying to help, you are trying to find some kind of balance, how to split various security practices so that they help your organization in the most effective way. And I'm pretty sure that everyone here has seen a graphics like this, describing how much security issue actually costs you depending on which phase of a certain activity you have identified. So obviously, if you find a security issue in production, or maybe it's not even you who finds it, but someone else abuses it, then this is obviously a big damage. And then the price decreases as you go back in the cycle. So obviously, it's cheaper in general to prevent security issues rather than to fix that. But at the same time, is it sensible to really fix everything, or making sure that you fix everything and invest all your efforts in the proactive efforts and not be really ready for the day when the incident comes? Probably not either. So what you're striving for is some kind of key how to split, how to create a sensible structure which works for you, where you get the most for your resources and for your budget. And the good news is that actually the industry, meanwhile, has developed quite some resources to use, and you can really help yourself using a lot of documents available, or methodologies, or frameworks. And if I were to classify them somehow, then if you start left, like with the ISO 27K standards or NIST standards, this is a really great piece of work, which probably you can certify pretty much anything you're looking at. So the versatility is really great there. The not so good news is that typically to implement, for instance, ISO 27K, that's quite a big deal. So basically, it gives you very rough framework, and you need to really put a lot of both brain and legwork into actually ending up with something what works for the organization. On the contrary, and if you go to the right side where you see the screenshot of the Microsoft SDL as an example for very concrete and particular methodology, which tells you, okay, first you take this tool and do this activity and so on. Then what's really good about this, that this is actionable, and if it fits your risk profile and your development methodology or product delivery strategy, that's really great. However, when you change it, if you go for Scrum, for instance, or something different, then you need to change the methodology and pick a different one. So I would say SAMM is somewhere in the middle, trying to find a sweet spot where it still is, let's say, generic enough so that it's not that important whether your teams do DevOps or waterfall or agile or whatever else. But at the same time, it tries to make the framework itself more actionable, so that there are not like 20 abstraction levels before you get to a certain activity. Another big player on this field is BSIM, which is a commercial product. Say the SAMM and BSIM have the same parent. During the time, they went slightly different directions. So while BSIM is a lot about observation of the market, what are various companies in various sectors doing to be secure, SAM aims to be more prescriptive. So give you actually some good lights. Okay, first you do this, then you do that, and so on. So this brings us to the formal definition of SAM. So obviously SAM being OWASP project means that everything is open source. Anyone is welcome to contribute, and what we are trying to achieve is some measurable framework which you can easily act upon and which still you give a lot of flexibility. So that the security can actually go hand in hand with the business your organization is doing. And if we have a look at some core assumptions of SAM and how SAM is built, I think there are 4 points to that. As you see, the first one is like, I don't think there can really be an organization which is successful, but at the same time doesn't develop, doesn't change, doesn't move at all. I don't think that the current days such organization would survive a long time on the market. So basically the idea is that the framework and your security program actually needs to adapt together with your organization. Also, if you think of the oil pump on the first slide, then basically every company, every organization have very different risk profile, very different attack surface, very different processes, its own risks. So this means that the security program needs to be aligned to those risks. If you are not fixing the biggest issues, your organization in your particular organization is having, then basically again you are wasting your organization's resources. We also believe that all the guidance we give must be prescriptive and clear enough for the people, so that maybe also if you are a smaller organization, either without dedicated security team at all or with just a small one, and basically you still should be able to take the framework and get going. So you should not need a team of security consultants with dozens of years of experience to start improving your security posture. And the last point, you also need to be able to sell it. Most security professionals fight, say, minimal levels or not so insufficient levels of security awareness. So you need to be able to get buy-in from all the stakeholders which play any role in your security program. Let it be managers, let it be developers, let it be business, let it be whichever else role. OWASP is actually more than 10 years old now. It was developed during like 2007 to 2009 as an OpenSAM, and that's also actually where a lot of confusion about the project and the naming comes from, and I will try to bring some clarity to that. So OpenSAM was created by Pavel Chandra and as an independent project, and later donated to OWASP. I would say that once it was published, it became very successful. It was really amazing piece of work. Many companies adopted it. Many companies were assessed by SAM. Also, a lot of companies included this in the consulting business to their portfolio. The issue was that after that, not that much happened. Some years later, the SAM project was picked up by some OWASP volunteers and to try to develop it further. As the world kept moving, companies were becoming more and more agile, but OpenSAM was still kind of tailored to a lot of the waterfall a world of having clear silos, having handover, having gates in your processes, and so on. So that didn't quite work out. And in 2016, we released the OpenSAM 1.1. And that also brought us to discussion how to proceed with all the framework, because also the original author Pravir wanted to keep moving as well, but didn't have by then say the necessary resources for that. So we said, okay, what makes the most sense is the fork, the OpenSAM project. So and that's where OpenSAM became OWASP SAM by then, and that is the branch which is currently, as of now, being actively developed, and the project team also started moving, getting more and more traction, and so on. Then 1 year later, there was a new version, 1.5, and at the same time, given that a lot of concepts were a bit outdated, and it was kind of difficult for you to map your activities to, let's say, the original, let's say, waterfall thinking, even if the situation improved throughout the years, then we started working on the version 2, which we proudly released in the beta version last year and in the live version this year. And I think what's really great about that is that meanwhile we have quite a lot of folks worldwide who are contributing to the project, where a lot of exchange takes place. So it's not like we would be say focusing on what we see in one certain piece of world, let it be the US, let it be Europe, or whatever else, but we have I would say a healthy mix of both from the geographical perspective as from the professional perspective. So we have people who run security programs in their companies. We have very technical professionals. We have consulting people on the side. So this really helps us to within the discussion to get clearer views on what the optimal guidance should be. If you're familiar with the SAMM1 branch, this is how it looked like. So the organization was that basically you had 4 business functions, so meaning 4 kind of areas you should look into, and then every business function had 3 security practices, which then further specified, okay, what exactly should you be doing, and in which order, and which maturity levels should you be looking to comply with. Then SAMM2 was quite a big change. So the original construction function, that one was changed into design to better reflect the activities which are taking place here. There obviously all the activities throughout the whole model were reworked from scratch. There is one entirely new business function which is now called implementation, which is now say more about what the developers are and the teams are actually doing. So not only what's happening before they start doing something and after. The verification phase was basically also rewrote really from scratch, also with completely new security practices structured differently to better reflect what we are seeing in the companies nowadays. And what I find really important is basically the operations business function, where if you have a look at the 1.0 or 1.5, basically by then the operations ended up kind of with preparing the environment for running secure software. But basically you were missing other things about, okay, so what actually happens once you run the software. So I know how you, for instance, manage incidents, or how you manage legacy software. How good are you with switching off these? So this was all added in order to really cover the whole product lifecycle from the very first inception up until switching off. And every security practice is then divided into two streams, as you see here. So basically, every practice has two core ideas which you should be pursuing in order to raise the maturity throughout your work. So for instance, if you have a look right at the beginning for the strategy and metrics, so kind of one part of it is to create all this strategy, make sure that people know it, but also act upon it to see how your strategy is working out for you and improving it. Similar education and guidance, for instance, is on one side traditional trainings, let's say you are giving to your stakeholders, but also actually about building a security culture, making sure that you get some momentum. To get an example from a different phase, if you have a look at operations, so the whole incident management, we believe that it consists again of two main topics, or you can classify it into two topics. And this is first, how good you are with detecting the incident, so making sure you're not realizing like 1 year later that you are actually having a live issue, and then how good you are with responding to them. And within all these security practices, you can reach three maturity levels. Sorry. So the implicit one is the level 0, where basically you are not doing anything. And in order to better understand that, let's take one practice or one stream, for instance, like security trainings. So on the level 0, you are basically not giving any security trainings to any one of your staff. With the level 1, you explicitly started. So meaning maybe you have created like awareness training for all your roles, so that everyone in your organization had at least the best understanding. Okay, what do we do when something happens, or who are my contact persons, where to get information from, what are the common issues that the organization is facing, for instance. When you go further down the road, then you will maybe find out, okay, maybe it's not the best idea to give everyone the same training, but maybe it makes sense to give the training to people to various roles which actually need the different content. So you might start giving different trainings to your developers, also maybe on depending on the technology. You might be giving different trainings to the admins, to your business, to your management, whatever makes sense for your setup, so that everyone gets the information which they need. And that's what we call the sales structure process, when you have like clear idea what you're doing. And maturity level 3 is always about various things. So one thing is scaling those things, like with automation, with detection breaches to your policy. So if we talk about trainings, also see, okay, who is actually coding maybe on your applications or products, but has not visited the mandatory trainings yet, and also about the continuous improvement a lot, so that you keep flexible and you keep the pace with the business, so that I know if you have a Java security training, that you update it with the new, for instance, versions as they keep coming out. Be an easy example. Yeah, and how to find out which level you are on. SAMM gives you for that various tools. I think that the most well-known one is the assessment toolbox, which is essentially Excel file with a lot of macros, formulas, and so on. And basically, the idea is that you keep answering questions, and for every questions, as you see here, you have so-called quality criteria. What do we see? So these describe you, okay, from when you can say what are the assumption what you should be doing in order to say yes, I'm doing this practice. If we get back to the example with training, you could also download some training from YouTube, which has nothing to do with your organization. Play it once to your developers, or just put it in your intranet, and say, okay, yes, I'm giving people awareness training. So that would, for instance, be not the awareness training in, let's say, in the world of OWASP SAMM. Let's say some quality criteria need to be met there. Also, when you will start responding to these questions, especially the bigger your scope of assessment or your organization is, you will find out that it's like very difficult to answer such questions in a binary way, either yes or no. So that was the idea how the original framework 1.0 was created, but that was really a big issue for people who said, yeah, kind of we have like 5 teams where you could say yes they are doing it, but maybe we have 10 which are not, and like what I'm supposed to fill out. So that's why also with the version 1.5 already we introduced, let's say, partial scores, where you can say, okay, I'm not doing this anywhere. Yes, I'm kind of started doing it. Yes, it's a well-established practice, but now I need to scale it. And if you are one, you can say yes, you like all my employees, for instance, got the awareness training. Similar. These answers are slightly different depending on the question. So a lot of time it's about coverage, either about number of teams, number of products, number of developers. Sometimes it makes more sense to cover this more like time-wise, like how often do you update something or similar. So it really depends on the questions, but you will always find these 4 possible answers in this sense. Yeah, once you are through, you will end up with something like this. So basically an overview on the left side, which shows you how well are you doing within the particular security practices on particular levels. As we see here, and this should be also happening to you most often, that for instance, level 1 would be way more colorful and will have way higher ratings than level 3. This is also based on the fact that those levels actually shows you a journey or recommended journey, and typically it doesn't make too much sense to start with perfecting something or automating some process which you haven't defined yet, for instance. So also during your assessment, if you will end up in a situation where you are having really good scores on level 3, but not so good scores on previous levels, this should really be done consciously. That's the recommendation, and you should have a very good reason for that. You can also see some kind of spider chart, like showing you, okay, which topics you are doing quite, let's say, in a homogeneous way. Like here will be the implementation, where the particular levels within the 3 practices are quite equal, but at the same time you see that the governance, you are doing a really good job, for instance, with the education and guidance, but you haven't really formalized all the framework as a baseline yet. So that might be a good topic to look at and start with. And that brings us basically how do you act upon these results? So maybe you do the assessment and you say, yes, this is perfectly the state where I want to be, and there is not really much to improve for me. I would say that's typically not the case. So the next step is to build some kind of roadmap, and this is how it can look like. So basically, where you define or what are the iterations in which you would want to improve. So by default, SAMM offers you 4 phases of improvement, but of course you can tune it in a way however you like. You can also play with the timing. You can have one big phase. You can split it like 4 improvements every month, where you get a bit like for various topics. Really, whatever makes sense for you. So that this whole thing works for you and for your organization, there are some really critical things which we see, which decide whether such project have a chance for success or not. I would say for the first part, if the organization is not willing to do that and doesn't see the added value, then you have lost right in the beginning. So you need to clarify the expectation. You need to provide visibility. You need to especially get the resources from your management and from your leadership to do such things. Because otherwise, most probably, if it's like some project or program which you would like to run on a longer way, then at some point it gets like deprioritized and will be replaced by some other initiative of your organization. Also, as a security people, we would like to see our companies and enterprises performing in the best way possible, but that does not always make sense economically. So the idea of SAMM is not to get at the level 3 in all practices, because this will probably make you slower. This will cost you a lot of money or other resources where it doesn't make too much sense for the organization. So I would say, depending on your risk level, risk appetite, on your risk profile, you should define your strategy so that you keep fixing the biggest issues you are having, as we were talking right in the beginning. As we said, awareness is the key. So of course, a lot of people still think, okay, like security is someone who fixes my problems for me, and that's obviously not the case. So educating your colleagues, making them aware of such strategic, making them also aware of where you are not performing that well and what it means for them. That's the key. In the DevOps world, as most companies go that way, you will also not get very far without some kind of automation and coupling the activities in your common processes you are using. So it's really important to create all the measures and the plans so that they fit both your problems, but also the way your organization is working. And I think the last point is about more getting it going. So if you get a buy-in, if you sell your leadership a business case, which shows, okay, what will you improve in terms of your risk profile, your reputation with customers, your compliance posture, whatever is important for you. It's really important to have them up to date, because otherwise, again, you will get lost out of sight, and you will also lose credibility for that. So to summarize this, SAMM basically helps you with probably four points to understand where you are in, let's say, terms of some formalized methodology. If you're not happy with where you are, which is the case for, I would say, 99% of organizations, then to create some kind of plan and to also show this plan. And also, you still need to think of SAMM as a tool. So there is no certification against SAMM or anything like that, but it's a tool, and it's up to you how you use that tool. So if you say, okay, I don't want to maybe create a big program, but there is a really interesting stuff which helps me with certain activities to improve my build process, for instance, that is more secure. So you're still more than welcome to do cherry picking and to just pick the activities which make sense to you and omit the rest of them. As of what is the project working right now, I think the biggest question we receive repeatedly is, okay, like I would like to get some kind of awareness how similar companies are doing, either in my geographical area or of my size or something similar. And that's why we are working on a SAMM benchmarking project. And the idea is to indeed give the organization this information. Obviously, crucial for this is to get enough organizations on board which are actually willing to share the data. So we understand, and what we see, there are various levels of anonymity being wanted, or some companies don't want to share any data at all. That's fine. So that's also let's say a big challenge for us. So what we defined are the, let's say, various levels of the data contributions, coming from the fact where you say, okay, yes, I'm this organization, I work for this organization, and this is how the organization is doing. There are also or the initiatives in the internet like that. So if you know the Cloud Security Alliance of List, where a lot of companies, especially in the B2B business, are publishing openly what they are doing and what not. So obviously there's the data of the highest quality, but there are not so many companies willing to share such data. And then we can basically decrease it either to be the submitter can be still verified, but can be kept anonymous, either be recorded or not even being recorded. Or also it's possible to share the data in a completely anonymous way. Obviously, this comes with the possible issue that such data is less and less trustworthy, especially here as you go down the list. I would think this is now what will show the upcoming time. Say if we manage to do that, if we manage to get the data. In order to be able to share such information, especially to get the data in, let's say, in a way or enough amount of such data which helps us to actually anonymize such data. In case this sounds interesting for you and you'd like to contribute, you can get in touch with Ryan under this address, who is running this initiative. Right now it's pretty manual way, so talking email. In the future we think of various ways how to again make it easier for organizations to share the data in the way they desire. In terms of metadata, what we are willing to provide is some kind of enough information, which is on one way where you can find out how are you comparing to companies which are relevant for you in terms of industry, in terms of size of your staff, either AppSec staff, developers, methodology, whatever, but also which still keeps you anonymous enough of your country, of your let's say competition or from other stakeholders. Yeah, so this brings us to closing, and there I would like to get back to my picture and how it actually works with SAMM. So we believe that while software is everywhere, the SAMM is essentially built in the way that it shouldn't matter even too much whether you are developing cloud service or a car software or IoT stuff or whatever else. So this should be still versatile enough for you to understand how are you doing with those various products. It should also help you to create a baseline so that you are not securing the, say, 80% of the infrastructure you're aware of, so that you're not keeping up with just the current running project, but forget all the legacy. So products which are still running somewhere there, but maybe are not even documenting, collecting dust and so on. So some things of there, and especially what we hope that this should really help you is to use the correct tools for the correct problems, so that it makes economic sense for you. In case this sounds interesting for you, you are more than welcome to join us, either as a consumer, either as a contributor, user. I would say the most prominent ways how to get to us is obviously our website, OWASPSAMM.org, where you will find all the information, links to all the other challenge, to all the other resources. We have a call every month to also share the progress with the community, respond questions, and so on. You can also join us on the OWASP Slack, or we are also fully open source on GitHub. You can file us issues and start contributing whatever you like. And yeah, that's everything I wanted to share. I'm really excited I could share it here. Thanks to the organizers for giving us the opportunity. And I am now open to taking any questions you might have.
That is great. Thanks so much, Daniel. Really interesting talk. If anyone has any questions, do you want to post them using the Q&A functionality below? You should be able to see a menu option for connected, which says Q&A, and there you can ask questions. Okay. Okay, so someone has asked, can you compare SAMM to BSIM?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I touched the topic briefly. So I think as of today, there are two biggest differences between these two. So one is SAM is open source, BSIM is commercial. So with BSIM, they share some data, but let's say not the full information. In order to participate in the BSIM program, be accepted to assessments and so on. So there is some program regarding regarding this, and I think second biggest difference is the prescriptive versus observation mode. So while BSIM is more looking into companies, what they are doing, which activities are they doing, maybe not in particular order or maturity or anything like that. SAM tries to be rather prescriptive, starting with the prescriptive side. So let's say with building the strategy, what are the steps which should follow one after the other according to industry risk profile and so on, and give you also some say side projects like guidance for agile environments which we pushed recently. We on that part, I hope that we will manage to move forward with the benchmarking project, that we will gather the data because then we would get some level of this, let's say, observability to understanding to help enterprises with understanding, okay, what is my competition doing?
Excellent, thank you. Just another question coming up here. Is there a roadmap for future OWASP SAM development or releases?
Yes, I wouldn't say it's not very formalized, but basically what are we working right now is to get more be able to be more iterative. So as you see, for instance, the OWASP, the branch 1, that was like really slow development, like one release like every few years at the best, and there is a lot of homework for us to do first. I think we are through with fair portion of the homework, but basically the version 1 was created in completely manual way. So this means like every release, let's say for every release there must have been like lots of reviews. We found like bugs which kept reappearing and so on. So we spent a lot of effort in automating all the pipelines so that we can generate all these documents, create the data models and so on. And as from now, we would like to have releases more often, like 2.1, probably next year, 2.2 and so on. And I would say right now our focus is to get traction and get feedback from the community on what's working and what's not, and improving the model in an interactive way based on this. Another thing which we are working on are various guidelines or best practices. So given that SAMM still gives you, let's say, some rough framework. So, for instance, recently we published the Agile guidance, which shows you, okay, what are the best practices, what has worked in terms of SAMM for, for instance, your Scrum teams or similar. So we'd like to continue with that. Another big topic is the benchmarking, I would say. So these are, let's say, the three kind of things we are working on.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much. Again, really great talk, really interesting. If anyone has any other questions, obviously you've got links there that you can contact the project. But yeah, Daniel, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Okay. So just a reminder that you are in track A of Virtual AppSec Israel 2020. In about 15 minutes, we'll be continuing with the next talk, which is CSP is broken, let's fix it, given by Amir Shaked. So that'll be in about 15 minutes. So stay here for that.